Yeah. Igbo kwen, yeah. Igbo kwezonu, yeah. Oko nyamili, nyamili. Koko nyamili, nyamili. Koko nyamiri, nyamiri, koko nyamiri, nyamiri. Ibole, ibole, ibobon, ndamamihe. Ibole, ibole, ibobon, ndamamihe. Ebulanyelu, 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 ebulanyelu. Anamabara na ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konye ofeke. Anamabara nụ n'ihe dị njọ ma na-emezi konye ofeke. Igbo bụ ndị ike, ụmụ Igbo bụ ndị ike, ụmụ Igbo bụ ndị ike, ụmụ Igbo bụ ndị ike. Koko nyamini, nyamini. Morning, everyone. I don't know what has happened. Technology is just not on my side today. But anyway, here we are. Good morning to you. If you find that if we find again that technology is not acting properly, don't fret. We're still going to be here. I'm not exactly sure why it's doing what it's doing today, but here we are. I know I sound like a frog today. I apologize for that. It's because I have a terrible cold. Trying desperately not to cough and carry on, but I'm really in a bad place right now here. But anyway, we are here to have a wonderful discussion today. And before we go any further, let me bring my co-host in, UD. You see what I'm saying? The technology is not helping me today. I'm trying to add him to the stage. UD, I don't know what's going on. I'm bringing you in, and I think something is wrong in this area with the internet, because it's not cooperating at all. How are you? Good morning. Good morning.
I'm doing fine. I hold the moment.
How are you?
Making sure that you're feeling good. And, I'm not too sure that our audience knows exactly what it entails to bring this programming to them, and the sacrifice and the sleepless nights that we have to go through, particularly you at the helm of this whole exercise. So I hope that, you're going to feel better. You know, ChinEke no one. I call Luchuku. We're doing ChinEke's work. And because we're doing ChinEke's work, I know that we're going to be supremely blessed. So, Yagazie to you and to everybody out there.
Thank you, and of course, Dibia Chidozie is with us today. Dibia and Dewo.
Dibia Chidozie.
Hey,
can you hear me, Dibia? How are you?
Greetings to everyone.
Yeah.
Chuko Kikabama will grant all of us good health, sound mind. Especially today, Bineke.
Yes.
I don't think you can hear me.
It's just whatever's going on with the internet today. Something blocking it because it's.
Yeah. He was wondering if we could hear him.
You can hear me?
Okay, you can hear me.
Just fine. Yeah. We could hear him just fine. So let's do it. Let's get on with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, coming in very slow. So anyway, Ndewo to Ukuna Charles, Ukuna Ugochukwu. Welcome. I'd like to welcome Akimi bro. Welcome to the program today. Hey, before we go any further, UD, can you just lead us in prayer, please?
Yes. Otidendile diri ChinEke, Obasi dị elu, Chukwu obiọma, Chidi ebere, Olisa nwa amara. Koza anyị niile ọbụla bụrụ ihe ọbụla kpatara aka ta ọ bụrụkwa ahụ mma mma. Tụwa niile site n'ozi ọma anyị a na ChinEke na Global Faith Ministry. Nwa obi aṅụrị site ugbu a ruo mgbe na-ebighị ebi. Ọfọ Yagazie ise. All praises to ChinEke, the Supreme Being, Chi the Good, Chi the Merciful, Chi the Magnificent with grace. Let everywhere of our lives be light. May all our acts be crowned with good. And may the world prosper through our ministry. And Chi is alive, now and forever. So let it be. Iseo, amen.
Ise. Yeah, guys. You know what? I'm in a celebratory mood, even though I don't feel very well. I received an award yesterday.
Yes.
And you know, it's always important.
Tell us more.
I received all kinds of awards.
Yeah.
But this particular one, I think it's really nice because it has to do with children, you know. When you work with children, you know, and you're recognized for working with children, it's really quite exciting. And so I am so honored. Sure. It's the Girl Child Initiative Outreach, and it's the Epitome of Human Development Award. Can you imagine that? Isn't that beautiful?
That's beautiful.
And yes, these are the girls, and the president of the organization is Kelechi Oferi, and he was the one who contacted me, and Ukuna Charles as well, and I accepted it. Unfortunately, I could not be there. Can you imagine? These are many. It's focused on girls, actually. It's focused on girls. So. And then my director for Enugu State, Stella Ago, went on my behalf to receive the award for me. So she's holding on to it. And when I go to Nigeria, I'll get a chance to see all these young girls. It will be my pleasure and honor to go and meet them. That's why it's important. What we're talking about today is very important, because the topic today is, how do you become an ancestor? Is it something that's automatic? Do you automatically become an ancestor? Who welcomes you into the ancestral world? What does it take to become an ancestor? So everybody else other religions, people have uh, a journey towards the spiritual terminus. Have you ever wondered what happens when we get to the ancestral realm? For those of us who believe in the ancestors, who honor our ancestors, what happens if we make it to the ancestral realm? Who's going to judge us? On what grounds do we make it there? Who let us in, so to speak? Does it even matter what we've done in our lives? Does it matter who we have helped and what we have done as an expression of our love for ChinEke? Where does selfishness start and where does it end? Human beings are selfish in nature, but because of the value system that you find yourself in, it determines if you're going to be an unselfish person or if you're going to be selfish. When do we truly practice the concept of we are God to each other? Munachiso. No, munachiso. Madubuchibeya. Munachiso is I am one with God. Madubuchibeya is we're God to each other. How do we truly practice it? Are we just talking about it? Do we really believe that we are going to become ancestors? Do we really fight to do that? When we pour libations to offer the prayer, what Arunsi are we focusing our energy on to ensure that the outcome of our behavior satisfies the requirements of ancestorhood? What part of your body are you consistently emboldening, empowering to help you direct your thoughts and your actions towards ancestorhood? What does it mean that you're going to become an ancestor? Oftentimes we find that we don't do it quite well. Many people who practice the pouring of libations, they don't always do it well. They start from the cultural perspective, and then next thing you know, it ends up in Christendom. Most religions have explanations about the afterlife, and we know that for Christians, it's either heaven or hell. There are behavioral manifestations that earn you either heaven or hell. In Christianity, heaven, at least visually, now I want you to think about what I'm saying. At least visually, heaven consists of people of a lighter hue. Look at the pictures of heaven. This really should make you and where you fit into it. They're usually lighter hue, based on the imagery. There's a message there, heaven is for good people. You considered good. The imagery doesn't suggest that you and I belong there. Okay. However, verbally, we're told that heaven is for all good people. Even the bad people who have confessed their sins can still go to heaven if Jesus has forgiven your sins. Okay. Hell, on the other hand, is for darker hue, at least based on the imagery verbally. Now, you guys know what I'm talking about. If you look at the visual of heaven and hell, who's there? Who's there? Even the devil himself doesn't look like the people you find in heaven. He looks like the people you find in these third world countries, because they're saying something to you. You don't belong in this grandiose world where everything is made of gold and silver and you sit around with all the angels. But nothing in the imagery shows you there. But on the other hand, it shows you something else where people go to burn. People are damned. You need to be smart. Don't let people sell all kinds of stuff to you. The afterlife is just as important as the life you have here, because it gives you an incentive to do good. If you didn't have the incentive of, okay, if I do good, there's somewhere I have to go. If there's no such incentive, for the most part, people just do whatever they want. But knowing that this world doesn't end here, it's also a motivating factor in how most cultures believe. In Islam, you're rewarded in the afterlife with virgins. I think it's 17 or so, whatever virgins. And the Hindus, the Buddhists, the Taoists, Judaism, Confucianism, Zoroastrianism, all these religions, etc., even the Ifa religion, they all have their own interpretation of the afterlife. What we have done as African people is that we don't even see ourselves in that afterlife. And when we try to let people know that we too have our own concept of the afterlife, then we're ridiculed. Our own concept is ancestors. Many Africans and all indigenous religions have their own interpretation about afterlife. Shiism is not the only one that has a particular concept. Many other individuals, cultures do. But what do we in Shiism believe, though? We believe in our ancestors' maxim that every human being has 7 life cycles. And in those 7 life cycles, you do good things that improve the next one until you get to the 7th. But how do you know? So how do I know what life cycle I'm in? How do you know what life cycle anyone is in? We don't. And that is why you continue to do good, because you don't know where exactly in your life cycle you are. However, the maxim that I was told by His Holiness is that once you reach the age of 80, now remember, you got to think, this is a way of letting you know where you are in your life cycle. Once you hit 80, then it is considered that you have reached the age that you don't have to come back. You don't have to reincarnate. Now you're qualified to become an ancestor. It's an aspiration. It's something to look up to. You become a spirit guardian. However, it is not guaranteed that you automatically become an ancestor if you've been doing bad things in your life. If you do not do good deeds in your life, the ancestors may not welcome you into the ancestral world. You may find yourself hovering, trying to find a place between reincarnation and ancestorhood. If you reincarnate after your 7th life cycle, you may come back as a lower animal. If you can't make it into the ancestral world, you may have to come back or just keep hovering. But if you do come back, because you've lived a not so healthy or healthful life, you become a lower animal, a tree stump, or other manners of human breakdown. Now, somebody's going to argue, well, it's not how I heard it. It's not true. Somebody's going to have something to say to that effect. But I'm not here to argue, because like I said, it is not, we Chias, we don't believe in what do you call it, exclusive truth. Okay, we're not here to preach exclusive, believe all of that. It's just an African folklore or mythology. That's all that is. But what is not mythology? Everything is mythology based on the culture, the spiritual concepts of people, of different cultures. I don't care what you believe. That's up to you. But if it's all based on my people's mythology, then that's fine with me. The purpose of myth is to offer you an opportunity to visualize the world that you live in, and possibly the life that you will live in after you live here. All of this is all social conditioning, spiritual conditioning. It is all a way to get you to do the right things while you are here. And if by chance there's that other place, you qualify to be there. But nobody can tell you that their story is sweeter, that their mythology is better. Everybody's got their own. But what mythology does, it teaches you. It's packed chock full of lessons that you learn from, and you use that to condition and order your life while you're here. Every conjecture about life after death is designed to teach one what to do and what not to do, to even make your life meaningful, and an opportunity to see the possibility of being a part of another dimension. But you don't have to aspire to be in someone else's dimension. You can aspire to be in the dimension of your ancestors. Most people who talk about heaven have not come back to tell us what heaven looks like, even though they think that that's an exclusive truth, even though they believe that's the way it is. You die, you go to hell, or you go to heaven. But nobody has gone to heaven and come back to tell us about it, or gone to hell and come back to tell us about it. The only people who talk about hell are those who are living in hell right here. No job, no money, can't pay bills. That's hell. No food, living in the streets, no roof over your head. That is hell. You don't have to die to see that. Then heaven, of course, if you can afford all sorts of things, you're living in heaven. Now, there are people who will tell you, oh, I've been to heaven and back. Well, they're telling you about their dreams. Everybody has a dream. So when somebody comes to me and says, oh, I dreamt that I went to this place and Jesus told me, or ChinEke told me, or God told me, or whatever you call the creator. Everybody experiences that. There's nothing unusual about that. A lot of people who call themselves man of God, they tell you, oh, they had, God just came and sat with them and just talked to them. Well, God talks to you every day. God talks to you every day. So there's nothing unusual about that. There's nothing special about that. The point I'm making is that the concept of ancestorhood is our own understanding of what happens when we do good things in this lifetime. That we are welcomed in by the existing ancestors in that realm. There's no punishment up there. Instead, you are expected to continue the journey if you haven't hit 80. But if you have, on the other hand, and you have lived a wretched life, there are consequences. You may not become an ancestor, or you may be stuck in the ethers, creating problems for the living, and not being able to join the living through reincarnation or to become an ancestor. You don't want to be in that situation. So we teach our children the importance of honoring the ancestors, because we all hope to become ancestors in the future. So that when people pour libations, they call out our names during events. You still live. They're remembering you. Your life was. You are a spiritual guide for those who call your name, for your family, in the community. So what some of the things that, and my co-host will add to this, what are some of those things that you have to do to get you to become an ancestor? Now, I'm not speaking because I know, we do have indications that people have been here before. Okay, we have that. And sometimes when you're in a difficult situation and you call upon the ancestors, it's also in your mind. You believe it. You believe it because in our culture, it's believed that the ancestors hang around to help. So what are some of the things that you need to do? First of all, honor ChinEke. And honoring ChinEke means respecting not just yourself, but respecting others. Because if we say, Minachiso, I'm one with the creator, I'm one with ChinEke, that means your fellow man is one with ChinEke as well. So you have to respect yourself and also respect your fellow man. Look at what's going on in Palestine, between the Palestinians and the Jews. Each one claiming knowledge about God. And yet, killing doesn't seem to be, we have a point to make. We're in the right, so we kill. We kill children, we kill adults, we kill anybody. Because we have the power to do it. You don't know God. You're never going to be an ancestor doing that. All those people who are willingly going out here killing, don't even think about ancestorhood. Yeah, the next thing that you must do if you want to be an ancestor is honor your parents. Honor your parents. First of all, honor the ancestors, right? Call their names, all right, as often as you possibly can. And then honor your parents. There's nothing worse than when children disrespect their parents. I mean, disrespect their parents to the extent that they are insulting. You have to be grateful that your parents took care of you. They did the best they could with what they had to work with. Honoring your parents is it's a sure banker, if you will, that you're heading towards the right direction. And take responsibilities for your actions. We tend to blame other people, but we never blame ourselves. We never look in the mirror and see that, hey, we are part of this problem. Take responsibility. Nobody died for your sins. If you sin, that was your sin. And nobody died for it. It's not going away. It's going to follow you.
Good point.
And live in a neat environment. You know what I'm saying? Keep your environment clean. You don't have to be rich to have a clean environment. Pick up a broom, anything. Keep your environment clean. The ancestors are watching all of that. If you know fully well you shouldn't throw trash in the street just because you finished a banana, you throw it in the street, or you finished a snack, you throw it in the street, you're a dirty person. And keep your health clean. Stop doing drugs, smoking, all of those things. If you take something that doesn't belong to you, put it back or don't even do it at all. You may think nobody's watching. I remember when my children were little, I would do something. I would put $100 in front of them, and they will not touch it. Or if they do touch it, they'll bring it back to me. To this day, I have grown children that I can leave money. I can trust them with anything in terms of funds. They'll never touch it. They'll never take from me. Even if they have access to my bank account, my kids will never touch anything that belongs to me. Because I always tell them that ChinEke is watching everything you're doing. The ancestors are watching. So even though I may not be there, that chair is occupied by either your ancestors or occupied by ChinEke. So whatever you do that's illegal, they'll see you. They're watching. It worked. Take responsibility. Don't take things that don't belong to you. Respect women. Some of you men just think you're so powerful because you disrespect your women. When to disrespect a woman is, quite frankly, you're disrespecting your mother. And sisters, don't disrespect men. They have as much as to do as us being here, as any human being here. They deserve the same respect too. Raise your children to be honorable citizens. Don't spoil your children to the point that they do things and nobody can tell them anything. That's not loving a child. That's spoiling a child and making a terrible adult out of him. And most importantly, be humble and respect your culture. For those of you who are so quick to abandon your culture, I don't know how you're going to get to this ancestral land. Now I'm going to ask my co-hosts to join in this conversation. Dibia Yudi, Ndewo. Share your thoughts.
Okay, Dibia, I always trust that you come up with topics that enlighten us, like I did, like we do in Charism and Global Faith Ministry. And this is a very, very important topic and hard-hitting. And I think an understanding of this topic sometimes, if not the absolute reason why communities are successful and others fail, why people have pride in who they are, and people in perpetuity are stuck as, people that look at themselves as inferior beings, inferior to other cultures. There is something that is common in all religions, and I think that you know that. Dibias here will bear witness to this. What is common in all religion is simply this. It's not necessarily they believe in a higher being, in God, because not all religions believe that there's a creator, and we know that. For those of us who are scholars and we understand natural theology. What is common in all religions is simply this, and I want everybody to take note of this. Regulation of behavior. That is the purpose of religion. Regulation of behavior. It's not necessarily supplication to a higher being. Most religions do that. But the idea behind spirituality, the idea behind religion, the idea that you stick to certain rules in the hopes of getting something after death is regulation of behavior. And as far as Christianism is concerned, and Islam and all these religions that have kept us in this cocoon of ignorance, nobody has ever gone to heaven and come back to tell you about it. And I think you mentioned it in the beginning of this programming. But there are two things that we need to take note of. One is anything about evidence of life after death in terms of going to this utopian place, this heaven, or whatever heaven may mean to certain, different religions and different peoples, is mythologized. It becomes a myth, where in a lot of religions you have myths of people telling you what it feels like when you're over there and explaining to you what it's like there, and the road that is paved with gold and the pearly gates, and there's food everywhere. You have access to all those things that will make your forever after, pleasurable. It's all mythologized. These are myths, but there are evidence of life after death in terms of those that have not made it to this heaven or into the ancestral realm. Such evidence is like ghosts, spirits. I'll give you an example. In 1978, a friend of mine, Jake Iruku, and I, we were coming back from a party. I was 18 years old. We were coming back from a party in Enugu, and we were going back to Omahia. It was about maybe 2:45, 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And we were coming down this super highway. At that time, it was a super highway. The highway was 144 miles from Enugu to Omahia. And I'm talking about super highways, the kinds that you see when you're on I-10 going to California. Beautiful stuff. So I'm doing about 90 miles an hour. As a young kid, speed was everything. I don't know. You probably thought you were Superman or something. So as we were coming down this long stretch of highway, I saw somebody in the middle of the road coming towards the car. And I had said to my friend, listen, Jake, there's somebody down there, looks like a roadblock. And if that person doesn't get off the road, I'm going to hit them, because I'm not stopping here. I don't want to be, hijacked by armed robbers. Because at that time, intermittently, there are armed robbers on the highway. I sped and went right through. As a matter of fact, as I was coming towards this figure, the figure was coming to the car just like that. And I noticed that the figure was drenched in blood and the clothes was torn up. The eyes, I don't know if you've ever seen a deer at night or a cat at night or a dog with the headlights on its eyes and the way it sparkles, just fiercely focused. This image or this apparition went right through the car. And when it went right through the car, the inside of the car practically froze up. It was so cold. There was steam coming out of my mouth, coming out of his mouth, and it went right through the car. And we didn't say anything to each other till we got to Isukwata Junction. So when we got there, I said to Jake, did you see that, man? He said, well, I wasn't really going to say anything because I didn't want you to think that I was crazy. So when I saw that, it wasn't just me seeing it. I saw it with somebody else. So I knew I wasn't crazy. So for me, that was evidence that when you die, something happens to your spirit. and you hover around. Either you hover around because of how you passed away, or for some whatever reason, you are not at rest yet. And I could tell it was a child. So in our African spiritual culture, that child was not ready for ancestral ascension. You understand? So there's evidence, and I'm sure even you, in the audience or in the panel here, have evidence of some spiritual apparition that maybe you have encountered, or somebody has encountered and told you about it. But nobody genuinely has ever gone to heaven, gotten to the ancestral realm, attained the in Buddhism, I think it's called the afterlife. In Buddhism, I think it's called what it is, samsara, to come back to tell you about it. These things are mythologized, and they're mythologized for one reason and one reason only: to regulate behavior. Now, when we talk about ancestors, sometimes Africans, because of the bastardization of our spiritual culture and how do I say, the colonization of our minds and the programming that we have gone through because we were enslaved, in the past, or colonized, we begin to look at our ancestors as something that is irreverent. We look at it as something that is evil. We forget that the religions that we now aspire revere their ancestors. In Judaism, you have Abraham. That's an ancestor, but it's not your ancestor. You have Joshua. You have Moses. You have all these biblical heroes: Ruth, Gideon, Jonah, David, King David, Solomon. They're not African. They're not from Nigeria. They're not from Ghana. Even though those boundaries were created by the colonial masters, but they're not primordially African. They're not part of your history. But yet, you respect the ancestral cultures of other religions and demonize yours because you've been programmed to think that there's nothing about you that is worth flaunting. In India, they have ancestral reverence. In China, they do the same thing. In Japan, they do the same thing. The Mayans do it, the Aztecs, the Incas, the British, King Henry VIII, King Edward I, King Richard, Joan of Arc. You could talk about the ancestors of other religions, other communities, other cultures that are not yours. You embrace them, but you turn your back on yours. You could see where this idea that Africans are inferior, you could see really where it comes from. And it comes from the fact that as far as your ancestors are concerned, you demonize them and you embrace the ancestors of other cultures, making yourself inferior because you now justify your worth by standards that are not of your own choosing. Those that came before you are your ancestors, because without them, you will not be here. You're not here because of King Henry VIII. You're not here because of the shogun in Japan. You're not here because of Genghis Khan. I'm here because of some Zulus are there because of Shaka. Some West Africans are here because of Moshe Shi. Those that came before us are our ancestors and ancestral reverence, not worship. You have to understand there's a distinction. Worship is to honor. We revere our ancestors as part of our genealogy. Therefore, ancestral reverence is part of our traditional spiritual ontology. At the forefront, at the top of this ontology is Anyanwu, the eye that never dies. The sun is at the top, the Godhead. Next to the sun is Ofonogu, that symbolizes a sense of truth and justice and fair play and good conscience that is embedded in the Almighty ChinEke and embedded in you, the Chi in you. Muna Chiso, I walk with ChinEke. That Ofonogu, that consciousness, that sense of truth and justice is in you as a human being. And we exercise it through our conduct and through laws that we put together to do what? To control behavior. Next to that structure is Arunsi, which is the spirit that represents the wisdom of ChinEke. And that wisdom of ChinEke is in you when people exercise good judgment and can decipher right from wrong. And you can see that in the judiciary system of our traditional judicial system. I'm not talking about the European system. They exercise that too. But I'm just dealing with our own cultural systems. When we make judgment, that sense of fair play or phonogo is in us. And I wouldn't see which represents the wisdom that allows you to make those judgments is in you. Next to that is Kamalu, representing the forces of the sky, rain, lightning, wind, storms, moon, and the stars. Next to that is Ani Allah, which is Mother Earth, covering the hills, mountains, rocks. Everything under the earth is likened as the foot of ChinEke. Next is Ekuroche, female, Imomini, male, responsible for living waters like streams, rivers, lakes, seas, oceans. They're represented in Yoruba spirituality as Oshun and Olokun, Ndem and Abasi in Efik Ibibio, and Owu in Ijo. It is likened to the two breasts of ChinEke that suckles us, gives us life. Now after that, you have Fijoko, the spirit that represents the totality of vegetation that we benefit from. I think in Dahomey, it's called voodoo. You know, a lot of people don't understand voodoo. They say voodoo. Voodoo is a Hollywood creation. But voodoo is the totality of vegetation, which in Igbo spirituality, and which is second to the last level of this traditional ontology, is Fijoko. And at the bottom of it is our ancestors who exist in memoriam, as the fountain from which each family unit draws inspiration for sticking together, for higher inspiration, pride, self-confidence, and noble deeds. What our ancestors have built is what we benefit from today. Without them, you will not exist. And so for us to look at our ancestors as inferior means that we're looking at ourselves as inferior because we're not descendants of the ancestors of the foreign religions or spiritual cultures that we now embrace today. So there's a disconnect there. By not embracing your ancestors, by not having reference for your ancestors, you are now considering yourself as inferior. Because if you don't revere them and you're revering the ancestors of other spiritual cultures, it means that you see no significance in your ancestors or in yourself, and that you have nothing about you that is worth flaunting. And therefore, community-wise, communally speaking, we revere our ancestors when we proceed. For example, in the New Yam Festival, before we eat the yam, we offer our ancestors the yam before we eat it. That is shown with reverence. And we have several festivals that, do this. ancestral reverence is very important. In our traditional festivals in Ukporo, where I come from, we call it Onwafo Eja. And it's wound around the Fijoko shrine. I think in the beginning of this program, we were talking about which shrine, do we coalesce around in reverence to our ancestors. Yeah. In Ukporo, it is Fijoko. It is a Fijoko shrine. The yam that you eat today that nourishes you, you only get to eat that yam today because your ancestors were the one that first found the yam to be very nourishing for you. It is through trial and error that our ancestors were able to determine those things that are good for us to help perpetuate our existence on this earth. That vegetable that you ate over there that poisoned you, it was your ancestor that ate it and died. For you to know that that vegetable is no good for you today. There is nothing that we do today as Igbos, as Africans, as a spiritual people, regardless of what race you belong to, even though we're of one human race, but regardless of the variety of the human race that you belong to, all life began in Africa, Central Africa. There were people that even came before Lucy, but let's just use Lucy as that example. All spiritual cultures in the world derive that inspiration from the first human that existed, our first ancestor that came from Africa. So if we understand that, then it's really a disservice to us to look upon ourselves as inferior, to look upon our ancestors as inferior when we are the mothers and fathers of humanity. You had a question.
That's right. That's right. Yes. So what you're saying in effect is that for you to envision yourself becoming an ancestor, you have to honor the ancestors first. Am I right?
Foremost. If you can't do that, you're absolutely right. If you can't do that, then all your exercise is...
Yeah. You cannot aspire for anything you look down on. That's the bottom line. You can't, if you think being an ancestor is, African, whatever, and you don't want to be a part of that, then you don't aspire, and I don't know what you aspire to, because if you're aspiring to go to heaven, then you're not aspiring to be with your ancestors, because that is not an African concept. But anyway, let me go to, thank you, Yudi, very awesome points. Let's go to Dibia Chiedozie. Dibia Ndewo.
Yeah, Ndewo. I love today's topic because we all are hoping to become ancestors one day, which is why some of us are stubbornly traditionalists, chaste, because we don't want to go to any other heaven outside our own ancestral heaven. Because we've been brainwashed that when we die, we'll go to heaven. Jesus Christ will come, welcome us. Well, I remember I read a work by Obegbuna, and in a particular old man as his dying bird, and then the Catholic priest was called in to baptize him, and he asked, "This baptism that you want to do for me, when you do the baptism, where will I go?" He say, "You will go to heaven." Say, "Which heaven?" Say, "Heaven above." He say, "Really, heaven above? To go and see who?" Say, "Jesus Christ and his Father." Say, "Will I see them so? Will I see Antim Nam so? Would I see my traditional parents, my ancestors?" Say no. Say, "Then I don't want to go to that heaven. Hold your baptism. When I die, I want to go to the heaven of my ancestors." And that's what it is. So what it is that this the topic of today connects the question of whence we come from and whence we return when we depart. So it's a cyclical question. is built around our creation story and is built around our theory of eschatology. For us, although for us there's no end to the world, because ours is a cyclical world. It's not a linear world like in Christianity and Islam. Our heaven is not up there. Our heaven is encircled within this earth, which is why the ancestors are the ones who occupy, the owners of the land. If you read Things Fall Apart, and like in the mount, the ancestors are said to climb to from beneath the earth to the surface of the earth through the ant holes. So our ancestors, that's why we have to keep the earth holy. These are, apart from creating hierarchy, apart from controlling, the important thing here is like Dibia and Dibias said, control of behavior, not only about myself and myself in relation to others, myself in relation to others and society, but humans and other creatures, humans and the earth, the environment, that we should keep it sacrosanct. We are part and parcel of it. We are not different from it. We are from it. We will return to it. We exist within it.
Yes.
And so, if you go by creation, we all are children of ChinEke Abiyama. And ChinEke Abiyama manifested itself in two when he wants to reveal itself to the physical world. ChinEke. The Chi is female, and then the Chi is male, the Eke is female. We have talked about this before. And so that is why for us, the world can never be reduced to one. The world must always be anchored on two legs, and these two legs are female and male. But the female precedes the male because it's the female that attracts the male. Because if you go to Igbo creation story, you see that after when ChinEke was to give birth to the earth, it did that through Eke. So see all others. Then the woman giving birth to a male child, and then existence continues. And so that goes back to, we have to respect the earth. That is why the earth and most of the things that represent nature are female. And that means to say, again, if you want to have peace around you, respect children and women. Once you give them their respect and give them all they want, then you, the man, can have your peace. But if you don't give them all they want, if you don't give them peace, you will not have peace. Now, that is one for us. And then our creation story tells us we are special. We are direct children of God because all of us share from that universal spark called ChinEke Abiyama. And that's our Eke that defines our Chi. And so what our culture, what Chiism gives to us is that we do not need to get to God through any intermediary. The divinity given to Jesus Christ in the Bible is what all of us have. Christ does not have it more than me, and I don't have it more than anybody. That is why we have to respect ourselves. And so the institution of Ancestralhood is created so that we can live a holy life, a Zindu. And then the institution of Ancestralhood also define our theory of salvation, Ubandu. That if we live a very good life, we'll follow the trajectory of Ofonogu, and we'll live by the principles of the universe, of the earth. We will live to a ripe old age. And when we live to a ripe old age, when we complete our cycle of what we are supposed to come to earth to do, we will become ancestors. We will not return, but sparks of us, like that of ChinEke Abiyama, will keep coming. Sparks of us. And then it is possible that an evolved ancestor who has completed his cycle can reincarnate as many people as possible. Because In my house, I have my maternal grandfather reincarnated. I'm the reincarnation of my paternal grandfather. Incidentally, my older brother and myself are incarnation of the same man. And then my maternal grandfather is incarnated my son, incarnated Ifeanyi, who is my younger cousin, and several of them. It's even possible for a single ancestor to incarnate both male and female. It's possible for a female ancestor to incarnate a male entity once the ancestor has completed his or her cycle. So at that point that the cycle is completed, just like Chukwu, you do not return. The sparks of you are sent out. Sparks of you are sent out to incarnate. And such people always have messages. They carry special messages that they come to deliver, which is why some of us, whether we like it or not, we have to carry on the battle. And the Spirit connects us. So what we are doing here today is part of that connection. Chiism is part of that connection, telling us the way we should go as Africans to address our complete existence on earth, and that our complete existence on earth, it's incomplete if we don't link to our own spiritual source. And that spiritual source is what energizes us, is what gives us direction. So the institution of the Ancestorhood already captures our worldview. Our worldview is that the world is cyclical. It is not linear. And that is why there is reincarnation. Reincarnation simply means that the world is cyclical. And a cyclical world, what it says is that the energy resource base of the world is inexhaustible, indestructible, indivisible, and is sustained through recycling. So the institution of the Ancestorhood represents that cyclical movement, that recycling, because ancestors represent the new past, like C.S. Momo will put it. Then children to be born represent the old present, because the same soul realm of evolution. Then the old past now incarnates into the present. So it's a cyclical world. So that if you see a typical African worldview, you see a circle. When you see a circle, you see an equilateral triangle, an angle with three equal sides imposed in the middle. Once that happens, you have three equal divisions of past, future, and present. It rolls clockwise. And this is repeated, is represented in our culture by the initiatory rites, 8th grade and initiatory rites, until we finally depart through mortuary rites. We are welcomed into the earth through rites and rituals of birth. And from rituals of birth, we keep going through the circle, 8th grade, to other guild systems, we attain, and in all of these, it's held together by Ofonogu until we bow out through mortuary rites. So you see that our ancestors already have given us a way, our own worldview, a complete worldview on which we can build the totality of our lives, spirituality, religion, science, intellect, governance, politics, economics. And that it is on this cyclical worldview of the ancestors that communalism is built. Communalism is not just communion. It's not just communion between the living. It's communion between the living and the living dead. So, and like we kept saying on this particular platform, because that is exactly what colonialism came to do. So that by the time we, the so-called independence, flag independence, we got it back, that's what we're supposed to reenact. But we now started building new African nations on Western paradigms. That's how we got into the quagmire we are in today.
True.
Because
Absolutely.
that spirituality that is responsible for communion, for the not merger, but interfusion of capitalism, principles of capitalism and principles of socialism. They interfused, interdependence, they interpenetrated, was replaced by mixed economy. And mixed economy is not communalism. Mixed economy is the forceful merger of two strange bedfellows, Western capitalism and Eastern socialism. And that is like trying to force two strange bedfellows to relate. Like you have love making between the praying mantis. You know, in the praying mantis, when they are making love, the mouth of the female is to the head of the male. So as the male is perusing the female, the male's head is being chopped off by the female. As soon as the love session is over, the male is dead. So because we have tried to practice mixed economy, and in trying to practice mixed economy, you discover that we run into greater quagmire. Because either the individual is trying to stifle the interest of the group, or the group is trying to swallow the individual. So you see, this deep dung affair continues. But if we are keyed into our spirituality and moved on with it, it will be seamless. Our development will have been very, very much seamless. We will not have to build an economy that we relied on the Western paradigms of Adam Smith, Plato, or that of Confucius, or Keynesian economy. These are economies that are parasitic and saprophytic. While our own communalism talks about symbiotic economy. But the economy that is running the world today is economic system that is running the world today is saprophytic and parasitic. So at this point, let me break it. There's still more to talk about.
Very good point. Very good points. You know, there were Dibias here. I mean, it's always a pleasure to listen to your lectures and hear you speak of truth, which is what is lacking in our community. And that's really what we need to, that is our responsibility in Global Faith Ministry of Chiism and in Chiism. And I say as Chiist, truth and justice. That's the core of what it is that we do here. I just want to reiterate something you had talked about as far as reincarnation is concerned, and that you are representative, or you're a reincarnation of somebody in your family. I have an uncle, you know, unfortunately, his name is Gideon. But anyway, he died in a farming accident. He actually took an axe to his knee, and it punctured his knee. Ooh. When he was swinging it. It punctured his knee, and then it got infected, gangrene and all that, and it killed him. Now, here's the funny thing. When I was born with a birthmark right there. I look like him. Wow. I talk like him. I walk like him. My relatives on my mom's side, from my mom's side, everybody calls me Gideon. They don't call me UD. Because I look just like that guy. I talk just like him. My mannerism and everything that I do is just like him. So when I go to my mom's mother's village, as soon as I come in, they say, "Hey, Day Gideon Abiala." You know what I'm saying? My uncle is here. Yeah. So I too internalize that and truly believe, because after hearing the stories of how he died and this birthmark that I have on the same spot on his, right above his knee, you know, I too came to accept that I am a reincarnation of him, not just because of what they tell me, but also because of my spiritual beliefs, particularly after becoming an adult and really understanding, the principles behind African spirituality. Life is about coming and going.
Sure.
Like you had mentioned, and as we know, it's cyclical. It's about coming and it's about going, and there's a limit to it, right? You come back 7 times. And after the 7th time, if you don't get it right, whatever getting it right may mean, you might come back now as a lower animal. You may come back as an antelope that becomes food for the jaguar.
Yeah.
You may come out as an ant that becomes food for the bird. You may come back as a bird that becomes food for the snake. But you materialize as a lower being, as, price for the deceptive life that you lived. And all that has to do with behavioral control. There has to be a price. In civic law, there's a price for everything. You murder somebody, you might get life in jail, 20 years, or you might get the death sentence. You steal, you rob the bank, you might end up with 30 years in jail. Whatever you do that is against man's written laws, there's a price to be paid. And the idea of the price to be paid is to control behavior. And the price for good behavior in the civic world is all the benefits that supposedly come with it. It may be riches. It may be that by being a good person, you have good relationships with your fellow human being. Madubuchi Bear comes into play. We have that saying because we expect that you should have a relationship with your fellow human being as you expect ChinEke to have that same relationship with you. And to foster that way of thinking, we say, Madubuchi Bear, the spirit of Chi is in you. Do unto others as you will love ChinEke to do unto you. And as a matter of fact, if you just live by that maxim, you're more than likely to attain the age of 80. It's not a guarantee, but if you do, you may not need to come back fully again to correct anything. And you may, a piece of your spirit may reincarnate into somebody else who will continue the good works that you did. But all this is based on one thing: crime and punishment. In the old days, it was understood that civic laws was just not enough to control human behavior. So you have the spiritual one too. You understand what I'm saying? And even at that, it has still failed to control human behavior.
That's why they build it.
Yeah, that's why they build
a society without.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So it is like, okay, we have a two-pronged attack on human behavior, right? To suppress this urge to take something without negotiating. This urge to just take what you want without any fear of consequence. You understand what I'm saying? So you have the spiritual law that gives you, if you do good, good things will happen. If you do wrong, bad things will happen. But it's not always the case, but you put it out there anyway and hope that people assimilate that philosophy, right? So that they could behave in a way that is not detrimental to the unity of the community, where your behavior is not harmful to somebody else, where you create an environment where people at least aspire to be great without fear that something terrible may happen to them. Because in reality, in the laws of karma, whatever that may be, because karma could be 1,000 years old, something that your ancestors did 1,000 years old that was blasphemous may come back to affect you today. That's why you say good things happen to bad people, bad people, and bad things happen to good people. And it does happen. You could be the greatest human being in the world, and you give to the poor, and you do all that stuff, and everything about you is so beautiful. You get on an airplane to travel, bam, your plane crashes, you're dead. Nothing in your life says that you deserve what happened to you. You could be the best person in the world and all that. Next thing you know, some other country, your neighboring country, invades you, and you catch a bullet to the head. But you put out this positive message that if you do good, good things happen to you. If you do bad, bad things happen to you. And part of the bad things that will happen to you is reincarnating as a lower animal. And part of the good thing that will happen to you is for you to achieve this, how do I say, spiritual utopia. You end up in this place where whatever milk and honey means to you, blah, 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 blah. Even Buddhism has the same teaching about consciousness and spirit that continues after death and is reborn. Death is an opportunity for liberation from the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. So in Buddhism, it's about coming and it's about going. That is the Buddhist philosophy. And to attain the state of Buddha is to attain this spiritual utopia of knowledge where you don't need to learn anything anymore. You've learned it all. You've got it all. It's tantamount to pagan religion, where most people don't understand that Christ, the word Christ, is a word given to people that have achieved this spiritual consciousness, this state of higher spiritual consciousness. In Igbo, in Nkoro, we call it the state of Amarachi. You understand what I'm saying? That's when you talk about similarities in religion, people think that this is no. Your geography is responsible for the culture that emanates in a particular place. Your geography, let me say that again, where you're located in this world is directly responsible to how you see the world. The Eskimo sees the world differently from the guy in the Amazon jungle. But unfortunately, Christianism and Islam, these Abrahamic religions, have come up with a policy wrought with blood and iron that the Amazonian must see the world the way the Eskimo sees the world. And that's where you have these conflicts and the injustices that you see all over the world, including what you see in Palestine. And I'm not going to delve into that history. But I will say this briefly. It is important